Okay, let's go a little bit deeper on this three-tier architecture and these three different activities and things that are just going on in here. So that top layer, everything always has like a bunch of different names, and I apologize for that because the world is so disorganized. But presentation layer, presentation logic, input, output, that client side, the user interface side, that top level that is always going to be on the client end of this deal. That is usually deployed through an app, whether that's Microsoft Access itself, whether it's a fancy phone app, whether it's the program that is inside of your supermarket console, or it's a website, something like Amazon.com or Etsy.com or whatever. So this is the pretty side. That's where people are typing things in, and it's usually using a GUI or graphical user interface. People don't usually have to type in SQL for this stuff. So yeah, so that's the pretty side. That's you know, that's the forms and stuff that we're doing, all that. The second layer, and on the right side you can see like the coding that goes with that. So if you're making a website, you're gonna need to know like HTML5 now. I learned HTML way too long ago. JavaScript, CSS, etc. That second layer that has all the business rules, which can shift between the client or the server depending on whether you have like which setup you're doing. That's the application layer or the processing component. That's where it identifies the data necessary for the transaction. So it's going to determine whether you need like all like a huge amount of information or this information or whatever, what gets sent to your computer, all of that. It can be hosted on a server, in the cloud, or dedicated workstation, depending on how large of a setup and what kind of setup you have going on. The data layer on the bottom, or the storage component, that's where all your data is actually sitting. So that could be an enterprise database in a mainframe. It could be on a data farm, etc. So again, a lot of variety in the physical storage of your data. A lot of options on each of these levels. So it's very flexible to meet your needs. And yeah, those would be like Oracle servers and SQL servers, etc. Okay, so been hitting this hard, but the advantages of why we want to think about the three-tier architecture, especially like as we get very large, is that it is scalable. Your access program, as it's sitting right now, is accessible to one person, you, on your computer. If you have a two-tier architecture, you can use that for like, if you have a small or a medium-sized company, you could still get away with using a two-tier architecture, fine. But if you want to hit many thousands of people to be able to use the same system, you need to look at the three-tier architecture. The technological flexibility is that you can add, or you can use a lot of different types of components. If you can use the mainframe, you can do the data lakes, data farms, you can scale up as needed and add that in fairly cost effectively now because it's been around, the technology's been around, which means that you can match your own business needs as you're growing. You can work on like what you need to do in order to improve customer service for speed and things like that. Like for example, when I worked at a movie theater and when, oh God, was it Twilight? It might've been Twilight. One of these like big things that everyone was like waiting at their computer so that when the tickets dropped, like everyone jumped on the computer and bought it all at once. We had 10 servers, I think, if I remember right, that everything is hosted on, and they crashed it. They crashed, like, all the clients trying to buy their tickets at once, totally crashed everything. So they had to scale up immediately in order to to fix that, and so we didn't have to deal with that again. Yeah, so things like that are super important for business flexibility. And yeah, with the data integrity and all that kind of stuff, there's reduced risks, better security, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so hopefully we've hammered in hard why the 3-tier architecture is better than 2, depending on whether your business is large enough for that. And all that's better than 1 because 1 is the loneliest number.